Florist, album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, how's it going? Jonnie here from What's Spinning, slowly playing catch up. I still have to review the new Chat Pile album. Yes, it's coming. We're here tonight to chat about this latest album from Florist. They are a Brooklyn-based folk and indie rock band, and yes, the air conditioner is on right now. I'm sorry, I'm a fat guy and it's summer. But anyway, Florist, they started to gain some traction a few years ago with The Birds Outside Sang. It's an album that I had a lot of thoughts on. I love the folky instrumentals, the hushed nature of it, the nods to sadcore and classic emo as well. But personally, for me, I need a little bit of a shift in sound from them. I thought the album was good, but a little one-dimensional. For me, I fell for that sound a whole lot more in 2017 with their album If Blue Could Be Happiness. It was very similar to their debut, with the extreme sadness taking up so much of this album was really great. I feel like I really got it, and if I sort of got it with that album, I really did get it in 2019 with their album Emily Alone. I really regret not reviewing this album at the time. It's a really fresh take on modern indie folk. Which leads me to their latest album. It is self-titled. Yes, this review is a little late, like I said, mostly because how long this thing is. I didn't expect it to be 55 minutes, 19 tracks. With that being said, let's chat about it. Simply put, a lot of this album is just nothing fancy, good old-fashioned, really feel-good indie folk. Red Bird Part 2, Morning, honestly, as far as modern indie folk goes, you're not going to get much better than this. Truthfully, this is absolutely gorgeous. It's sweet, it's tender, it's hushed. But most importantly, the big thing about this album is the atmosphere. There just seems to be so much depth to the music of Florist all of a sudden. I mean, is this anything new or groundbreaking? I would not say it is, but they break down the fundamentals so well and put together a track here that's really enjoyable. It's cozy, it's warm, it's beautiful. Spring in Hours is really nice too. This is the perfect blend of very spacious, very airy folk with a warm, cozy atmosphere and some really emotional, heartfelt lyrics. It's the real deal. It's perfect for the early fall. And lyrically, it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I will say this, if you are completely off to the sound of modern indie folk, if you've kind of given up on it, and many have, this may not be the album that's going to win you over. But I can get lost in this so easily. Those warm woodwinds are just so lovely. A lot of the same goes for Two Ways. It's a hushed ballad that just warms my heart and makes me feel all sorts of things. It's short, it's sweet, and beautiful. 43 sounds like the perfect medium for the band as well as a sound goes. It's pensive, it takes its time, and on top of that, it is just really visceral. It is just so deep and visual and cinematic. All these things that Florist's music have never really been before. It's definitely getting out of their comfort zone, and if the instrumental is sort of getting out of their comfort zone, these lyrics certainly are as well. They just get up strange, they just end up getting weird at points. But while they get pretty out there, it also feels like home in a way. It's really strange but beautiful. River's Bed, I think it's the best track here. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is so stripped down and full of this immense sadness, like think of like Bon Iver's For Emma forever ago. And it's also just so painfully human and real. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways. And you know, I did enjoy a lot of the singles leading up to this album, including this one, but I think this is by far the best one. Dare I say most melodic in parts. It's weird, but it is. Dandelion, on the other hand, brings in a serious sense of drama. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still very hushed, very quiet, very serene, but it's very cinematic once again, and like I said, has a sense of drama to it in its own way. I love the hypnotic guitar riff that we get here. The atmosphere is just so dense. It's so ethereal, and this album has so much depth to it, but this track just adds so much more. It's wild. And Feathers is really nice too. I love the very subtle, very warm rhythms of this track. This just sounds like such a great sound for them, and the immense amount of longing in the lyrics here is commendable. Now, you may be asking yourself, John, from What's Spinning, 55 minutes, what makes up those 55 minutes? Well, music fans, there is also a lot of, dare I say, ambient interludes. And most of them actually come off really nice, even though they're not anything groundbreaking. June 9th, Nighttime kicks this album off, and it's very spacious. It adds a lot to the atmosphere. Florist really take their time here. This instrumental gets very meditative. And most of the interludes here, like I said, go over pretty well, including this one. It ends up being this really hypnotic, very relaxing, and really, really well done ambient intro. Reprise later on in the album, I mean, once again, it's nothing fancy, but it's 27 seconds of absolutely gorgeous instrumentals. It adds quite a bit. Bells Part 2, feel a lot of the same things towards that. As far as just interludes go, these are some of the better ones I've heard all year. They really string this album together nicely. It's so peaceful and focused. It's incredibly beautiful, albeit short, but it's really expertly done. Like, it really is handled with care. I may be a simp for this, but I feel like Bells Part 3 is really good too. It's relaxing, it's sweet. I mean, just put this on if you want to nod off for a minute or two. And Jonnie on the Porch, which ends off this album, really winds things down in a really nice way. It's very spacious. The woodwinds are to die for. Like I said, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's really nice to listen to. Now, a lot of this album is really nice, but we also do get some painfully bland indie rock thrown in there as well. Like Organ's Drone, this is a sad state, friends. This is some pretty bland, faceless singer-songwriter stuff. It's just lacking the great atmosphere and the fearless nature of so many other tracks here. And this may come off as a surprise, but I'm really not that big on Sci-Fi Silence either. Of all of the singles here, and probably of all the tracks here, this is one of my least favorite tracks. Much like the band's early days, this is a little one-dimensional in my eyes. I mean, I like some of the atmosphere and the production's pretty cool, but this is over 6 minutes. And this album's 55 minutes long. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with a long folk album that has a lot of heart and a lot going on. Trust me, there's some better ones out there. And a lot of those interludes, like I said, we get a bunch more by the end of this thing, and a lot of them also don't pan out and end up making this kind of sloppy and unfocused. Like Duet for Guitar and Rain, this one just does not add up at the end of the day and does not add anything to this album. This one has some nice ambient sounds, but it also seems really unfocused and adds nothing to the atmosphere of this album overall. It's just kind of here, taking up space. Also, the first part of the Bells trilogy is not my cup of tea either. This is an odd turn for the lo-fi and sort of experimental. It sounds cool while it's on, but I just wish it was more fleshed out. I have a lot of the same thoughts on Variation. It's cool, but it's also short and really, unfocused. And Duet for Two Eyes, truthfully, this is bottom of the barrel. There are quite a few instrumentals and interludes here that add so much to this atmosphere, but this is not one of them. This is 2.5 minutes, and I cannot tell you how much it drags. And finally is just, it's fine. It's just sort of here. I don't know, like, there is so much of this album that is very refreshing, very, game change. Watch that. There's a lot of this album at the end of the day that I do enjoy. A lot of this indie folk is pretty, experimental at times. It has a very, unique edge to it. It has a lot of personality, a lot of depth. There's a lot of cinematic vibes, and this is a folk album that has a hell of an atmosphere, but it is 55 minutes. There's a lot of interludes, and you might not like them as much as I did, but there's also some fairly bland singer-songwriter stuff thrown in as well. I think this album would have easily been like an 8, but it should have been trimmed down a little bit because there's parts of this thing that are really unfocused and sad. I mean, honestly, like I said, Big Thief showed us earlier this year, there's nothing wrong with a big bulky folk album, but you gotta stay focused. And for the most part it's just, it should have been trimmed down a little bit. I'm feeling a very strong 7 though on this new album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, friends, have a great day.